Welcome to another episode of Stow Nation, a production of Park Media. Before I introduce today's guest, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, share, and leave a 5-star review. And if you find this podcast useful in any way and want to pay us the ultimate compliment, head on over to our Patreon page where you can subscribe to be a classic, stealth, or beast mode subscriber. Today's guests are Jason and Emma Walsmith. They have been married for 5 years and are raising 2 lovely sons in Iowa. Jason has spent the last 28 years as the co-lead singer of his band, The Nadas. Throughout Jason's music career, he has performed all over the world and has even been inducted to Iowa's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Before COVID-19 hit and obliterated the music industry, Emma owned a successful online ticketing company. Today, Emma is Jason's co-adventurer and has supported Jason's music career by being the manager, a loving mother, and even a driver when need be. Since July 2020, both Jason and Emma have been living the raccoon tourist lifestyle, one who tells stories in a skillful and amusing way while traveling for pleasure. And in less than a year's time, they've traveled to 32 states and put 45,000 miles on their mode classic, Falkor. You can follow Jason and Emma on Instagram at FalkorVan. Please welcome Jason and Emma Walsmith to the Stow Nation family. Jason and Emma Walsmith, welcome to Stow Nation.
All right, thank you.
I am super excited to have you guys on because, most people don't know, but we've been talking about trying to get you on the podcast for such a long time. And we finally are able to get the stars aligned, and we are in Phoenix right now recording this right after the Sedona meetup.
The stars have aligned.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the world conspired for us to be able to do this.
Exactly right.
But I'm super excited. And I just want to say before we begin, most people, I don't know if most people know this, but you were so kind to be able to release the song Rita's Hook, which is a song that opens up for the podcast. It's basically the podcast theme song. So I appreciate it.
It's my first podcast theme song. So we were very happy to do that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for asking us. We're honored for sure.
Little did you know when you guys wrote it and performed it, it would be for a podcast.
That's right.
But no, it's really awesome. And I had fantastic reviews, especially when we first started with the music, and everyone loves it. So thank you.
Good. I'm glad it works. We're happy.
Yeah.
It fits really well, too.
Yeah.
It sets a good tone, and it follows through with the rest of the vibe of the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you nailed it on the head in regards to it sets the mood because, I mean, I don't know anyone who's in the industry of making like movies or podcasts or whatever, but like the music plays a very important role. And the team that I was working with at the time, we were all scrambling at the very end to try to figure out like, okay, if we can't use Jason's music, then what? And it's like, we had no idea. And
because I was bad at correspondence.
No. No, it's just
a little bit.
No. It's the fact that like, you know, I'm a planner, so I always
Sure.
have a plan A, B, C, and double Z, right? Because you just never know. And so we were just trying to figure out, I was like, I need a plan B and I need a plan C. And we're like, we don't know. And so like people were like texting me like certain music that they found on YouTube or like wherever. And I'm like, oh, that's copywritten. I can't use it. Or it became a situation. But luckily I didn't have to use plan B because there was no plan B.
I like being people's plan A, B, C, and I'd never heard of double Z before, but I like being
that's off a
people's plan double Z.
That's off it's a stupid joke. It's from Excel. So when you do the cells and whatnot, it's like you go all the way down until you hit double Z, and that's when you know like you're in Excel hell.
I see. You lost me at Excel.
Yeah.
She's an
Yeah,
Exceller.
I would say I use Excel,
excels.
but I don't know that I've ever had to get to double Z before.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
May you never.
May I never.
Yeah. I wish that on no one. It's horrible, but that's why it's just a joke. Anyway, sorry. It's more of an inside office joke from my old job, but anyways.
No, it's good.
But so you guys have an interesting story. So first of all, I'm going to just straight up ask you, when you bought your Storyteller, did you ever think that you would actually be making a song for Storyteller?
No.
Not at all, no.
No, and in this camper van song is actually a song that we wrote before we even met anybody at Storyteller. So we had no idea that there would be people that it would resonate with other than Jason and I making a plan for our first major trip in the van And he happened to turn that practice of where are we going to go and what are we going to see into a song.
It was a weird experience for me, actually. I sat down in kind of an old school way, but with a pen and paper and a map. And we knew where the shows were along the way. And so I kind of started to think, like, where can we stop? What can we see? What's along the route? Mm-hmm. And I just started writing it down. And I think that act of writing it down in that sort of old school fashion was so much like writing a song that it started to flow out like a song. So I grabbed a guitar and I wrote a song and made a route at the same time. It's like the most efficient I've ever been in life.
Yeah. Awesome. So we had no idea whatsoever. And what happened is that on that route, we were in Seattle. And we were spending a few days with my family out there, our family out there. And we realized that there was this adventure van expo going on in Alta, Wyoming. Mm. And so we talked about it, and we decided that if we wanted to drive all night, we could get there before the end of the event. So that's what we did. We left Seattle at like 11 o'clock at night and
we had a show
driving
the next night in Salt Lake City.
Yep. So we knew we only had like 2.5 hours to spend.
Oh my goodness.
In Alta.
and it was a little bit out of the way.
And it was a little bit out of the way, and we hadn't talked to anyone at Storyteller at all. We just thought, this is cool. Like, when else are we going to be this close to an event in Alta, Wyoming? Again, who knows? Sooner, later, no idea. So we decided to go for it, and we drove, I think it was like the 12 hours or something, to Alta, Wyoming, and we got to the Storyteller event, the Adventure Van Expo, and that was like at 11:30, and I think the event ended at noon. And so we pulled in, and we saw all the Storyteller people there, and Captain Morgan, Tim, we had never met him before, but some guy with this amazing mustache comes walking out towards our van, and we're a little bleary-eyed from having driven all night, but we made it, so we're a little energized too. And he's yelling at us, and he's like, Jason, Emma, come over here. And we were sitting in the van like, what?
They know us?
This was totally unanticipated. And so we pulled over, and because it was towards the end of the event, it was really easy to just bring our van in over where their vans were.
Oh, nice.
And then we told them that we wrote this song, and, amongst other things, we told them that we wrote this song, and Jeffrey's response was, oh, cool, can we hear it? And Jason looked at him like, well, I guess I have my guitar. And so Jeffrey said, oh, great, well, when Amy gets back, would you play it? Because, we'd love to hear it, and Amy can grab some photos of you playing, and it'd be great. Totally casual, totally like, this guy's interesting and nice. The next thing we know, we have this group of people at the Adventure Van Expo listening to Jason play this song that we had just written, and it seemed to be resonating with everyone. And that was our first step into this whole storyteller world, other than we bought a Storyteller Overland, what's next?
Right.
So
wow. So from there to now, because your song is going to be released, and it was produced by Storyteller, is that correct?
Yeah, you could say that. So
okay.
Yeah, they booked a studio, the Fame Recording Studios on Muscle Shoals, which was an amazing life experience, and then the players on it are Storyteller people, and Jeffrey, the CEOs, just killing it on guitar, and Matt, the quality control.
Hammond B organ, right?
Yep, and Hammond, and Matt from Quality Control is playing bass, and Jason Ruha, who does like the video work for him and stuff, played drums, and so yeah, they booked the studio, and we went and recorded it. It was a great experience.
Wow. So what kind of time frame are we talking about from when you guys first met him in Wyoming to when you recorded?
6-8 months or something like that.
Yeah, it'd be probably closer to like 8 or 9 months. Because we're at 11 months right now of having owned our van. At the end of June is when we bought our van last year, and we hit the road July. So about 8 months later, we were hanging out in Birmingham because we just decided to call one time when we were headed to Florida to play, and we said, hey, can we come bother you guys and hang out? And I think a lot of people do this. Like, I'm coming through. Can I come see where the vans are made? And they accepted our self-invitation. And so we popped down there and we just kind of hung out in what they call the Compass Room, their little conference room that happens to have guitars all over the walls. And we started just kind of daydreaming about, we want to record this song. We have a handful of other songs. Jason actually has about 10 songs that he's recording on his album that'll be released August 31st. And that's when we started to realize that we were talking to musicians. Like, we weren't just talking to head of quality control or the CEO. We were talking to people who had really interesting feedback and an interest in participating in recording at Fame Studios. So that discussion and then the turnaround on us actually going to Fame was like, I think 3 weeks.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
So we went from, hey, we're going to start recording this stuff to, all right, let's go to Fame pretty quickly. And it was absolutely magical. There's anybody who has an appreciation for music should do their tour. It's
there's
really
a great documentary
exceptional.
called Muscle Shoals, which is on Netflix, I think, or and it tells all the history. And I can just say that walking into the room felt much like, or watching the documentary felt like walking into the room. Like, they really do a great job of bringing the spirit of the place into that documentary. So if you're into that kind of thing, that's a great way to start.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's an awesome story. And I'll have to check that out.
Mm-hmm.
So what was like being able to play with Jeffrey and everyone else, other than that, what was like another really cool experience that you guys had while filming the song?
So there's a Wurlitzer piano there, like a 1959 Wurlitzer that Aretha Franklin used on her first track that she recorded there. And
do right woman, do right man.
Is that what it is? Mm-hmm. I can't remember. But, and on the documentary, they kind of show this thing and they play that song. But Spencer, the engineer that ran our session, sat down and played the beginning of that song on that piano. And it was like the spirit was there. It was like we were there when they were making the song.
Wow.
So that was one.
That's really cool.
I, on my own, just went into another room one time and sat down at this harpsichord and played the harpsichord. And I don't really play piano or anything. What's a harpsichord?
Sorry, I don't know what that is.
It's like an old classical instrument, almost like pre-piano, or that has double strings for every string. So it's got this kind of weird tinkly sound. But it was used a lot, like by the Beatles and a lot of records made there in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same one sitting in the same spot. The piano that, I don't know. I don't have all the stats still, right, or all the facts from it, but just a lot of really famous songs that everybody knows that are like part of our culture were made there on those instruments, and they sound the same in the same room,
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool.
I had a special experience where each door, once you get into the studio area, is 2 doors for soundproofing. And at one point, I was in the green room, and I was ready to come back into the Studio A, and I opened up the door, and there was just this door that has no handle on it. And I figured that it was, maybe I shouldn't open it. I don't want to hit anybody on the other side. Also, there's no handle. Does it just push? And so I reached out to the team to say, will you come let me in when you can?
You said, I'm locked in the green room.
I'm locked in the green room. And, because I kind of did try to push on it, but it didn't budge.
Oh, okay.
And anyhow, so probably 10 minutes later, they came and were laughing at me because they were like, it's just a door. But for me, I was like, I don't know. I don't want to just shove the door and see what happens.
It was just a heavy door because it's like soundproof.
Yeah. So for the whole time we were there, they were all making fun of me for having gotten locked in the green room. But I mean, it was a good place to be. I wasn't in any rush.
Well, I mean, yeah, I totally agree with you. You don't know what's going on the other side. And yeah, I would probably do the same. Mm-hmm. In fact, I probably wouldn't text anyone. I would just sit there and wait.
Yeah.
It's a green room, so there was, refreshments and coffee and donuts.
Oh, nice.
You could have survived there for a while.
Ooh, that's great.
The other special experience is that I had the honor, we all had the honor, but I had the distinct, oh my gosh, I just met Mrs. Hall moment, which is, so Rick Hall is the guy who started Fame Studios. And to this day, his family and his wife run the studio. And he passed away a handful of years ago. But as I was actually in the green room still, this nice woman came in and was asking about what we were working on. And eventually she introduced herself, and I had watched the Netflix documentary, and my jaw dropped to the floor. I was like, I went from being like, oh, thank you so much, how are you, to I said, what an honor. Because, I mean, she is such an important part of American music history, and everything that she and her husband and then her children have done was just, I soaked up every moment with her, and we chatted for about 45 minutes the following day, and I ate it up. It was pure magic. And I told her that I got stuck in the green room, and she thought that was pretty funny.
I bet you talked to her for a total of like 3 hours.
Yeah.
I
could not get enough. It was
her telling stories, you telling stories. Yeah, you guys hit it off.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I'll share about that Emma got to experience was her first time singing in a recording studio.
Oh, you sang?
Yeah, I sang on the recording, and it was exactly where Aretha Franklin stood to record her first track at Fame. And that was exceptional. But I'm not really historically a singer. So I told Spencer, the guy that was running our session and recording everything, I said, if it doesn't sound good, please just tell me that. Like, let's not do any sort of like, oh, that's fun, let's do it again. You know, I don't need that. If it sounds good and it's usable, awesome. No, let's just accept that. And he was like, holy crap, I mean, not that it sounded exceptional, I don't think, but it's not going to kick off my singing career, but it did add a little something. And I even took a video walking back up into the engineer space of the studio where Jeffrey Hunter and Spencer were sitting there. And I walk in, and Jeffrey was like, woo! And Spencer's like freaking out. And that moment, you're right. I don't know how I didn't lead with that. That moment was like...
I don't remember if it was Spencer or Jeffrey that said that it brought a smile to the track, but that's what it did. It was like that part added a smile to the song, which was a cool way of saying it.
I think it was Jeffrey.
Yeah.
He's got a good way with words. So does Spencer. But, you know.
Yeah, no,
it was neat.
He's very articulate, for sure. Yeah. Wow, that's such a special moment. I think you hit a grand slam meeting her and then being able to sing and just absorb everything.
Do you know, I ran after that, the moment I lived in it, I experienced it. And then once we were on to the next thing, I went right out to the front of the building to tell Miss Linda Hall that I had just sang in where Aretha Franklin had sang. And she was really fun to share that moment with too.
Yeah. Who else would you want to share that other than, your husband and whatnot? I mean, that's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it was absolutely perfect. The fact that she actually knows Aretha Franklin and that she actually was a part of that original moment, to be able to then extend that kindness to share a moment with me was really neat. Mm-hmm.
There's so much energy in that room. I can't imagine. Yeah. Wow. Woo.
Yeah. Well, and then there's all these, we said, like the incredible legendary musicians that have performed there and recorded there, but then there's also the present day incredible musicians like Jason Isbell. He and the 400 unit have recorded many things there. He recorded Southeastern there, which was one of our favorite records for a very long time. Still is one of our top records, but then there's all these other artists that have recorded there in recent history that it just felt really cool to be able to interact with people. It filled our cups, to be able to have those moments and to get feedback from these sound engineers who had just recorded with like Steven Tyler a month or two prior. So it was really neat.
That's so crazy. 11 months ago, you just got the van and here you are in Fame Studios, busting out a sweet jam where Aretha Franklin got her start. That's crazy.
It's so crazy.
Kimchi found the hole again.
Oh.
He's not digging yet, but...
Hang on. I'm going to go yell at him. Or actually,
you can just give him a little nudge.
Oh, he's like, oh.
What?
See, that's where it gets confusing because it kind of should come with a command, right?
It's just a vibrate, and so I've associated the universal to the vibrating, and so he knows what's up. but he also doesn't know where it's coming from.
Right.
So even though I've been using it since he was a little puppy, he's still just like right now, he's
Yeah.
like, where,
Oh,
what?
Oh, gosh.
What's going on? So, there he goes.
Good.
Yeah. But it's so handy.
I created an extra edit for you. I'm sorry, but
No, it's okay. I'll probably leave it in. That's the
There.
dog spot
Good.
we were talking
Yeah.
about.
It's natural.
Yeah, no, oh, now he's being all cute. Sorry. You guys have 2 pups of your own, right?
Yes.
we do. The
Pep-
great travel dogs.
Pepper and Potter. I think they've done all of the miles with us.
Almost. I didn't take them to Texas.
Yeah.
I did that Texas
They
run.
haven't gone on your solo trips.
Right. You're right. They've done all the miles with us, which
Yeah.
is most of the miles.
Yeah.
I did a handful of opera house shows in the middle of the winter in Iowa, just Iowa opera house shows. And those I did on my own. And then I did a Texas run and a northern Minnesota run.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can think of right now. But let's go back to they did most of the miles.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've done well over 40,000 miles on the road with us since beginning of July of last year, and they love it. And they, I joke that like we bought them a very nice kennel because for me, when we were looking at different vans that we might want to purchase, or truth be told, when we decided we needed to get a vehicle to travel in so that Jason could continue playing music during COVID, which in turn meant we could continue paying our bills. We looked at all sorts of options, and this was the only one that fit for us where we could also bring our dogs because of that Volta power system. And it has been just perfect for them. It's reliable, it's useful, it makes me have the ability to walk away from the van without worrying about them the whole time. I just know that they're okay. Like, it's nice that we have it because it keeps us comfortable. That's fine. But for me, it's like, okay, the dogs are safe. And that's something that no other vehicle we were looking at really provided. And if we were going to be out on the road playing in people's backyards, well, then we were going to be leaving our dogs behind quite a bit, or we had to figure out how to make it work. And this totally fit for us. They love it. They, I always say groove lounges for dogs. They, at home, if the van door is open, they're going to jump in there.
You're saying that to Youngwa, though, and she uses it as her bed.
Well, yeah, but
It's also Kimchi's bed,
It's
too.
also-
So
for us,
Nice
our
of Kimchi to let you
groove,
stay on the
I know,
groove
right?
lounge. Yeah.
trust me, he loves to spread out. And whenever I try to move him, he literally is like,
well, for us, it's definitely where our dogs hang out, and they actually sleep in their kennels. We travel with 2 kennels because they're bird dogs, and so if we don't put them in their kennels at night, then they don't turn off their brains, and any little sound outside they have to be obsessing over. And so when we put them in their kennels, they know they can just turn off for a while. But when we're traveling, I look back there and they are sprawled out. They've got their toys up there. They're just living a very good life. And I'm glad that.
Which is why half the pictures on our Instagram are of our dogs like sleeping on the in the van.
Yep.
Because it's a very comforting image, you know.
it is.
See those dogs just chilling, it makes you relax.
Exactly.
No, I totally understand. And then in regards to like the dogs getting all the attention, like when people come up and like start petting and talking to Kimchi, I'm like, that's cool. I know you just want to talk to my dog and not me, and I'll be over here.
Yeah.
They just laugh, but it's so true. Dogs just have that awesome energy about them, and your dogs are great.
Well, back to talking about that first van expo, that was another part that was surreal. As we pulled up to all these strangers that we didn't know, and we got out of the van, and they're like, Pepper, Potter, like Joe and Kate Russo, who we were like, oh, there's celebrities over there, knew our dogs' names.
Yeah. When Kate said Pepper Potter, I was like, oh my God, Kate Russo knows my dog's names. And I had studied everything on the We're the Russos website before we got our van, because they had documented so much information about traveling with dogs. And so all of the things that I did with them once we got our van, as far as like spending time with them in the driveway in the van and a couple other key pieces of advice that they have on their website, I was like, all right, sign me up. I'm a true believer. This is going to be great. So when we then pulled up, not knowing that the Russos were going to be there, we were both like, oh my God.
That's like the best full circle ever.
Yeah. And now they're like our friends, and we're so grateful to know
to take
them.
it even further full circle, we've now, like, we contributed to their blog about traveling with pets.
Yeah.
And so we learned first about traveling with pets from them, and then we got to contribute to their, next version of that story. So it was fun. So that's full circle.
Yeah. I can tell. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's still, we watched and still watch, but we watched a lot of van life videos before we got our van. Jason has been watching all of those videos for probably 5+ years. It's like part of his duty is to consume all of the Land Cruiser and van life content put onto the internet.
True.
And to know where any van or Land Cruiser is for sale and how much it is and whether or not you should probably buy it.
True. Yes.
And so
That's my mission.
Yeah. So like these were television characters to us, and so to be able to see them and to meet these individuals was really neat. And now just 2 weeks ago or so, Joe and Kate and their truck camper Leo parked in our driveway for a few days. And
oh yeah, I saw that on your Instagram. I was like, no way, that's so cool.
yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah.
Like they're mortals, I understand, but I'm still a little bit totally fangirl for them, and they know it.
No, I'm the exact same way. Yeah. In fact, like just sitting here, I don't know, like 6 or whatever episodes after I did the podcast with Joe and Kate, just talking to them, they're still like, like what you said, they're just celebrities still in my mind. It's like, even if I ever meet them in person, I'll be like, oh, I don't know what to say.
Well, I hope they tune into this podcast.
Yeah. Well, and we invited them to join us at Fame.
Oh, really?
So
Did
they came and hung out for, well, definitely the first day. Were they even there? I think they were there for the second day for half of the day. Yeah. So we were like, hey man, if you want to experience something within 2 hours of Birmingham, Alabama, because they were in Birmingham, we're like, you should probably come dip your toe up in Muscle Shoals and see what it's all about. And so they joined us for the first full day and then half a day, and that was really, really neat.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. It was cool. We had Jeffrey's mode, our mode, and then the truck camper Leo parked right outside of Fame, and it looked like some good stuff was going down.
Heck yeah. Yeah, if I saw that driving by, I'd be like, oh man, I'm just going to invite myself.
Yeah.
See what's up. Boundaries, what? Oh. That's cool. So the Russos were a big part of you guys choosing the Storyteller. Was there any other reasons that you guys... Well, first, let me back up. What else were you guys looking at?
We definitely looked at a lot of different vans, and from anywhere from custom ones to building our own to sportsmobiles to we're from Iowa, where Winnebago's from, so we definitely looked at the Revel. One of the things I did as a photographer is I shot the Winnebago catalog in like 2015, and so I was really familiar with their products, and we went and rented one. And I don't know, to be honest, we were still we were maybe 5 years optimistically away from getting a van.
Yeah.
So I was doing this hardcore shopping, but not really probably going to buy one, and she's always like, I don't want to look at things I'm not going to buy. So, it was all me. Mm-hmm. And 2 years ago for her birthday, we rented a Revel in Colorado and decided that for that much money, it didn't fit our needs. And I kind of gave up on the van thing for a while then.
Yeah. And it was shocking because we were wanting to make it work. We were like, all right, we're going to rent this Revel, and that is going to be, we're going to have so much fun in it that it's going to make us want, and we're going to just figure it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Even though we're not quite ready financially or where we're at in life, maybe this will push us over and we'll just do it anyway. But it did the opposite. We're like, we're not going to spend that kind of money on something that's not exactly what we need, or, and so we weren't really thinking about it. Then COVID hit, and my band had 2 really nice vans. We had a Ford Transit that was like executive transport style. So it had 6 nice captain's chairs and a huge 32-inch drop-down TV and cup holders and reading lights. And it was really comfortable, but we outgrew it. And so we had sort of like parked it. It was for sale, actually. But it hadn't sold, but it had been for sale. And then we bought this really cool Sprinter, this full, long wheelbase, extended 170, 2-wheel drive, but it had 5 bunks in the back, and then a little galley, and then a lounge. And so we were traveling with 7 people, and the 2 seats in the lounge were bunk size too. So it could sleep the whole band and the crew. So we had that for a while. And then when COVID hit, my business partner and bandmate was like, we got to sell the vans. We can't have the overhead when we're not traveling. And I kind of fought it at first because it took me a long time to find that Sprinter that was just exactly what we needed. And
at the time, we really had no idea. I mean, I suppose we still don't totally have an idea. We had no idea how long this COVID thing was going to last. So
yeah, I would say,
should we sell the Sprinter and then in 2 months from now we don't have a van?
Yeah, and when those conversations were happening, we had no idea.
There's no information. Yeah.
But I started to kind of like push back, and then I was like, well, let's sell them and then we'll do our own thing. And so we started talking about building something. We looked at an old F-350 Power Stroke, and we were looking for a truck camper. We went and we drove to Chicago, which is like 6 hours for us, and looked at a 1998 Starflight.
Oh, wow.
That was
carpet
super
on
low
all
miles,
of it.
brand new tires, but it was like just a whisper away from turning into dust,
But so we were so sure we were going to buy that because what was on the horizon and motivating us to get one now was that Jason had booked a run of shows in Colorado in middle of July. And I was not sure that would we be able to go into rest areas? Would we be able to feel comfortable going into convenience stores or even grocery stores, So we were not going to go or in people's homes.
We weren't going in anyone's house. Yeah, so that's an important thing to talk about. Is we were doing a CDC approved private backyard shows, small groups, family pods, socially distanced, outdoors. And we weren't even going to.
And we weren't going to, And we wanted to make it like so not tempting to break the rules that the CDC had put out there. So we wanted something that could be completely self-contained. But we were under the gun because he had booked this run of shows. And I was like, you're not going to go unless you can go safely. Mm-hmm. And so we actually looked at do we turn our Land Cruiser into a camping vehicle somehow? But then we also travel with guitars and maybe dogs, and this is going to get complicated. And so we took a cashier's check to Chicago with us, thinking we're going to buy this Starflight and we're going to use it for a year, and then we're going to sell it for a couple dollars.
Might make it from show to show, or it might break down on the side of the road.
Yeah, and but then we got there and we were like, okay, this would be a bad idea.
And it's got a smell to it.
Yeah. and the tires aren't as new as advertised. So we headed home, and then we're like, okay, we got to continue this hunt. So Jason had the idea that maybe what we should do is the Ford Transit that his band had owned had been for sale for a year and it hadn't sold yet. So we thought, okay, maybe we buy it. And then we figure
with
out...
With our rudimentary or non-existent skills,
we
will convert it.
Which I think would include us, putting a camping mattress down on the ground and, getting a camp toilet that we bungee strap down to the ground, and we call it good, and we hit the road. Well, the same day we decided to make that purchase, he gets a phone call from busforsale.com is who was selling it, and he's like, hey, we found a buyer. They'll pay your full asking price.
Oh.
We're like, okay, but we just decided we're going to buy it for a little less than the asking price. So we couldn't let ourselves miss that opportunity for the band. So we let that idea go. I think the next day we decided we would go drive a truck, and Jason had seen a Lance truck camper at Lichtenstein's, and it had been on there for a month on their website. So we're headed 30 minutes away from our house to go check out this truck. We're thinking if the truck is good, we'll head on up to Forest City and pick up this truck camper, and that'll be our solution. And as we're driving that 30 minutes to go check out the truck, I call the dealer, and they said that truck camper sold this morning.
And this was
we were
just starting to happen everywhere.
Yeah,
you're looking at Marketplace or Craigslist, and things are there for a second and they're gone.
Yeah.
They're just starting
That
to
was the
disappear.
beginning of the
Yep.
great RV industry boom.
Exactly.
So actually, one of the hosts for one of the Colorado shows, who's been a long time guy, like he's been my friend for a long time, who's saying, just buy the van, you'll figure out how to make the payments. Like that was his mantra, you know. And
Yeah.
he had a really built out Winnebago Era 4-wheel drive big 170, you know. And he's like, you should look at Storyteller, because all of a sudden we're getting desperate. Like, we've got shows coming up, we've got no vehicle to travel in. And he's like, you should look at Storyteller. I think there's a couple of them around the country available. And I was like, this is an interesting part of the story, because I'm like, well, I looked at them, you know, before, like really early on, and I don't think that they would fit our needs. I kind of thought when I looked the first time that they were cutting corners. Like, their bed didn't have a mechanized up and down motion, and they didn't have a real bathroom. You know, I thought all these things like, oh, they're just kind of like looking for the easy way out, you know? He's like, well, you should look again. And so I did. And then I'm like, oh, it all started to make sense. Like, that bed not having a motor to make it go up and down, one less thing to break. Mm-hmm. And that bathroom that is not, you know, doesn't have a bathroom in the middle. That was the main thing we didn't like when we rented it. And, you know, then I started seeing all these like other solutions, and I hadn't even really thought about the Volta or the power system yet. Yeah. And then when I saw that, I was like, now I can talk Emma into buying this really expensive van, because now we can say the dogs are good, you know?
There's not a bathroom taking up a third of the space all of the time. Mm-hmm. And which, by the way, since I'm 6 feet tall, when I would stand in that water closet, I was like, this is impossible. Like, this is, maybe if I was a much smaller individual, I could make this work. But really, I wasn't getting enough out of that space. And so he actually brought to me the Storyteller website, but then also this video that I love. I've watched it probably at least 10 times, of Andrew Cooley also known as Overland Jones, at an RV event, and he's walking the videographer through the Storyteller Overland, and he is just so pumped about it the whole time.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, you're right. That's an amazing solution. Like, I was buying what he was selling. Absolutely. And then I'd watch it again, and then I'd go back to the part that was about the shower, and I'd really hem and haw about that shower idea. And, well, actually that's really smart. And from there, it just spiraled very quickly. We found ourselves, so let's say that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was when we were trying the Transit. We were going to go get the truck. Well, Thursday, we decide, all right, we're going to figure out how to get a Storyteller. At the time, I don't think we even thought about whether or not they were easy to get. Yeah. We just thought, let's get one. And later that Thursday is when we started to look into where they were. And there was only one available on their entire network in that moment. And it was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So we thought, okay, interesting. And we kind of, type in the numbers. Oh, this is how much it's going to cost. And I'm thinking, that's a lot of money for it's not that it's wrong, but how are we going to make this work? How many gigs do we need to book? So I went and I got groceries. And when I came back, Jason comes running out the side of our house, and he looks like he's, found a cure for cancer. He was like, I have the best idea. And I just opened my door to my beloved Lexus GX 460. It was 10 years old. It had 80,000 miles on it when we bought it, and it was perfect, and I loved it. And I opened up my door from getting back from buying groceries, and he's like, I got an idea, yelling at me across the driveway. And I was like, and he goes, I don't know if you're going to like it. And I was like, you're not selling my car. Like, we connected there, and I slammed my door. I'm like, no, because my car was the only vehicle we owned that had a payment on it still. Mm-hmm. So he walks over to the car, and he's like, well, here's why we need to sell your car. And here's why it's a good idea. And I basically said no for like 10 minutes. And then I thought about it some more. And then I thought about the fact that if we sold my car, then this would be my van. And that could be kind of fun. And so we started the process of trying to sell my car. And we called La Mesa, Albuquerque, Friday morning. And by Friday afternoon, we had financing. And that weekend, I think we found somebody that was interested in buying my vehicle. And on Monday, we rented a minivan and drove down to La Mesa, like 14 and a half hours of driving time overnight. And we slept in the back of the minivan outside of the La Mesa, Albuquerque location so that we could be there bright and early Tuesday morning to take ownership of our van. And that was the first time we'd seen a storyteller in person. Wow. Not until the moment that they drove our Falcor van, is what we ended up naming it, until they drove that up to us. We'd only seen the Andrew Cooley YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And, oh man, it's just like from there on out, it's just been magic. Got home, somebody bought my car for what we wanted them to buy it for. They sent a friend a trailer all the way out to Portland, Oregon. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Wow, they really wanted it.
Yeah.
You know what? All 3 vehicles, we sold her car and 2 band vans. They all went to Oregon to separate people. Huh. Just really randomly, huh?
And 2 of them, I think my car and one of the vans are like in the same town too. So,
oh, that's weird.
Yeah, it's super weird, but magic too. Like, what is that about? What's going on in the universe that all 3 of our vehicles moved to Oregon? So now Falcor is my daily driver, and
grocery getter.
I use it to go get groceries.
Grocery getters.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely enjoy it. I get compliments from like probably every 3 times I go to the grocery store or the pet store, either some person, usually a dude, will say something like, "Sweet van." I'm like, "Thanks, man." Or there will be like an older person, usually an older lady, who will say, "Oh, that's a big van," to me. I'm like, yes,
but what about,
yes, ma'am, it is.
What about, are you going to share the most recent experience in a grocery store?
Oh, yeah, that's crazy. I don't know if you saw this. When I told him the story, he said, "Well, you have to post that." And I was a little embarrassed, honestly, or maybe at least just blushing. I've been down in Arizona for the last month taking care of my mom. She broke her hip at the airport, and she's doing super well, like amazing, incredible, super proud of her. But that means that I got to stay here for a couple of weeks, and he flew back to Iowa to take care of our kids, and I stayed here with our dogs in the van. So I've been driving the van around to pick up groceries again. And at the Safeway, I was loading groceries, and some guy walks up to me and said to me, "Hey, are you single?" And I'm like, got my face mask on still, like loading groceries in the Arizona sun. And I said, nope, I'm happily married. And he's like, "Oh man, because if you were single, then I would have just found my dream girl and my dream van at the same time." And I don't know what's in the water or what's in the air systems of the storytellers, but for whatever reason, instead of me being like, "Oh, this guy's kind of creepy," instead I was like, "Nope, super happily married, but you should buy a storyteller." And I spun it around on him right away. I was like, "You should go to StorytellerOverland.com. They're a repeat build van business. It's not a custom job, so you can have the exact same thing, but here's the improvements they've made since when I bought mine," and blah, blah, blah. And I don't think he anticipated that he was gonna try a one-liner, and then I would be like, "Actually, thank you for attending my TED Talk on Storyteller Overland. I've been waiting for the audience to arrive."
Oh my gosh.
And so he said he was following him on Instagram and that he was going to follow us too. And luckily, in hindsight, he wasn't all that creepy.
That's good.
Like, that could have been real creepy.
Yeah.
But instead, I used it as a chance to try to onboard another member of our community.
That's awesome. Way to turn the tides on that one.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, it literally just kind of like something switched, and I was like, "Well, let me tell you why you should buy a Storyteller Overland."
If you think I'm hot, there's tons of it. No, I'm just
kidding. Check out Stonation. I don't know. It's fun, and it is fun because it's Andrew Cooley once told me at Storyteller, he once told me that the thing he likes the best about these vans is that he can be completely honest about every aspect of it and still be saying like a positive thing. His family has sold a lot of RVs in their day. They owned like an RV dealership, and there are some vehicles that he's sold before that, you know, he would be like, "Well, yeah, it's great," but personally he might not love it. And these vans, he loves it and we love it. I think, that's one of the magic pieces of the Storyteller, is that we're all just sitting around feeling really lucky and happy with our purchases, and enjoying the community that it's brought to us. So I guess I just wanted that random guy in the grocery store parking lot to have that opportunity in his life too.
Was the community a surprise for you?
It was actually. So, like, majority of people that bought a Storyteller, I call it pre-Storyteller.
Yeah.
I was looking at the Revel. I actually had a deposit down at Litchen, actually. Yep. And that was probably like a month and a half before the big craze hit. And I found out about Storyteller, so I called the salesperson up. I was like, hey, you're not going to like me, but I decided to go with the Storyteller because of the battery. Because, it is a major thing. And that was before the Revel Winnebago announced that the 21s would have a lithium battery. So anyways, I bought it. So I got my first taste of it was actually Tim Bougie. Mm-hmm. So he was originally from Austin. So he was in Austin visiting friends and family, and he put it out there. He's like, hey, anyone wants to come check it out, whatever. So I met up with him, and he was super excited. He had like the same energy that Andrew mm-hmm. Cooley does. And like he was showing me everything, and then like we just sat down and he answered all my questions, and I got to see everything firsthand, and and I had owned the Travato before that, and so like I kind of knew the quality difference.
Sure.
Firsthand, and I was wow. And so after that I was sold, but then once I started, especially in the Facebook group, like most new owners, like I had tons of questions and everyone was like super helpful and nice, mm-hmm. Because you don't get that in other groups.
Nope.
I'm not going to name names, but you know what I mean? But, and I was just like, holy cow. And so long story short, because of the community is why I started Stone Nation, actually. So
awesome.
Yeah, so I had no idea that I would be here sitting with you guys doing a podcast when I was talking with Tim, trying to decide if I was going to get it. So yeah.
And I had no idea that we would show up for these van events, and I would just start playing guitar, and there'd be people, crowding around listening to music, and that I'd have like this audience that I didn't know me before. That's pretty unique. So same kind of thing. It was a surprise. And back to the friend of ours that, I was playing his backyard show that said you should check out Storyteller. When we went and played his backyard, we parked in his driveway next to his Era. And by the next day when we left, he had listed his Era and put a deposit down on a Storyteller, and now he has a Storyteller.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He kept walking back and forth between his vehicle and ours, and he'd be like, oh, and he was comparing notes. He'd be like, wow, oh, it's so quiet, and stuff like that.
And his was that he'd done all the mods that you would do on an Era, and he had a full Agile rip on there with extra suspension and custom wheels and big tires on an Era. But even he ended up selling it, I think, basically for what he had into it, and he had it for a few years, because of that just boom.
Yeah,
so
that's mm-hmm. good. I think the community. So this podcast will be released before my interview. So I don't know if Jason told you, but Graham and Paul interviewed me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, in Sedona. And so I won't go too much into detail but I basically rambled about how great the community was for like an hour and a half.
That's awesome. You're like, more on that on episode.
Well, and also we between the three of us drank over, I think this is probably conservative, maybe like 3/4 of a bottle of tequila that
during
Wendell,
the podcast.
Yeah,
that'll be exciting.
That Wendell gave us.
Yeah.
But anyways, it was pretty interesting. I was editing actually yesterday, and I was like, ooh, that's a little slur. I was like, ugh.
That's funny.
But no, the community is fantastic, and I think I said it during the interview. I was like, I wouldn't have started this podcast if I didn't think it was such a great community.
Sure.
And even in Sedona, Jeffrey, or the company, flipped the bill for the wine tasting and for a bottle of wine for everyone.
I don't know if I told you that.
Did not know
that's
that.
wild.
Yeah, and so that was really, really cool. And so they're just it's really family, know, and I don't want to go too much and repeat myself, but anyways,
sure.
it's a great community.
Well, I'll say, I'll say what I think on that part.
Okay.
There's a fly, and then is Kimchi doing okay?
Anyways.
Sorry, I'm like dog check. I'm assuming that my parents are taking great care of our dogs right now. So here's how I feel about it. You just said the word family, right? What I have found in this whole last almost 11 months of our life is that we somehow found ourselves a part of a community that is so, for better or worse, that or unconditional, I should say, that is truly magic. So what I mean by that is that things happen. Like vans have things that can break, or people can not know how to make something work. One of the first things we did after we picked up our van when we drove through Colorado is we found ourselves on the Storyteller app, and 15 minutes later we found ourselves on the phone with Dan, Storyteller Dan, and he's like, just come by my house in Denver and I will walk you through all these questions you have. And we had a list of like 20 questions, 25 questions maybe, things that we would almost be embarrassed to ask, but we knew we had this opportunity to ask. And he didn't say, well, no, it's like this. He said, oh yeah, let me show you this. Let me show you that. Oh, that's a good question. And the same sort of thing has been carried through not only with the storyteller people who work for the organization and build the vans, but also the people who buy a van and then can share knowledge. And you mentioned earlier, there's some social media groups that it's almost like you get, you can have the knowledge, but first we're going to make fun of you for asking or something like that.
Yeah.
And in our community, it's like more of a wealth of knowledge. It's a pool of knowledge that everybody is welcome to.
Different skill sets.
And, you can add to it. You can ask for help from it. And as far as we've seen so far, people are just going to say, yeah, that's a good question. I had that exact same question. I once was exactly where you are. Or if something breaks, it's not an issue where, well, you bought it and you drove it off the lot and good luck. It's if something breaks, there's going to not only be other owners who might have some advice for you, but there's also a team of people at Storyteller that are paying attention and that want to help you continue down the road safely with what you purchased in the best way possible. And that is something that I certainly could never have fathomed. I didn't buy this van thinking that we would be so lucky to have that. And yet now it's like such a beautiful resource that we have. And I would say that that's exceptional.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I kind of feel like you are accepted into the family and then you buy a storyteller now because the word's gotten out, you know, like they're growing, demand is obviously there. And so, you know, people are putting deposits down now and literally waiting a year. I think this cracked me up. I don't know who said it on the post, but she was like, I can literally make a baby faster than
I saw that too.
Than I can get a storyteller. But anyways, I mean, that's how it is. But I feel one of the major reasons why people do is because of the community. And then they know that they have all of us behind them if something happens. And I can't think of any other RV manufacturer out there, maybe one, that you get that kind of community, you know? The only other one I think, well, I won't name it, but because I don't want to get in trouble, but.
Sure. No, I'm right there with you. And I think that part of that is luck, but I also think that our friends, like we've gotten to know like Amy and Thor at Storyteller. They were at the Moab, thank you. The Moab meetup. And I think one of the cool things that continues all of this goodness is that they don't try to influence it, but they capture it, you know, and they share it and they celebrate it. And I think I'm just so in admiration of Amy's photography skills for the Instagram. She's really good, She's so good. But she captures the emotion, the feelings, the rawness of where we are, but also all of the magic of what's going on. And she's not even conducting it. None of it is a scheme. None of it is a marketing angle. they just see that their community is doing something really exceptional and they're celebrating it and supporting it. And
I would almost say,
yeah,
now that we've gotten to know them a little bit and know like some of the employees and been able to visit the factory, I think it's
recorded
kind of
some songs with them.
Yep. I think it's kind of a reflection of the company, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what you would want as a company. You can try to manufacture that and you might have some success, but if you're just a reflection of, because they're a family there too, you know. And it's a bunch of good people and those with good intentions. So you put those good people together with good intentions, and then it reflects on the community that they cater to, I think. At least I feel like that's what's happening.
They have all these vendors that they work with who also happen to be incredible individuals that we've gotten to meet at these meetups and at these adventure van expos. And I mean, it's just, we keep counting our blessings, and just every day is revealing something more incredible. And it's just been fun. And all of it's because of this van that we bought.
Well, also your talent too.
Well, sure. But the thing that ignited it all is that we happened to buy a van so that we could travel safely during a global pandemic, and had no idea. Our only goal was to continue being able to buy groceries, like make enough money playing outside in people's backyards so that we can buy groceries and afford this vehicle that we bought. And it's just turned into so much more than that.
It's so awesome. And every time it's like, it can't get better than this. And it does.
It does. It absolutely does. And we get to meet people like you, you know, like everybody is so fun. And the van is like this great equalizer of immediately you have something in common. You're part of the family. You might have completely different views on some things, but you have this in common, and it brings you to the table, and it just opens up conversation. And that's been really neat to experience.
Yeah. I mean, what other place or company where you have a community made meetup and then the CEO comes out to it, like moves everything around just, you know, to go to it, just to meet everyone, you know, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Magic. There's magic in the water in Birmingham, Alabama.
I know, something. Or
good people.
If it's not
and
magic,
good
I
vans.
want more of it. But.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny is that ever since we met these guys, and because we got the van middle of the summer last year, when we're playing shows outside, as you can imagine, as the later fall months and the winter months hit, we started mostly traveling south. And so we would just stop in and say hi, or, you know, do you guys want to get lunch or what have you, a few times. And I had no idea end of June last year that Birmingham, Alabama would feel like a second home to us. And now it's like one of our favorite places to go.
You're just talking about
we have
the
favorite
pimento
coffee
cheese.
shops. Yes. Oh my gosh. We have favorite coffee shops in Homewood.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
That's cool.
yeah. And I also learned I love pimento cheese in Birmingham, Alabama. You should write that song.
Yeah.
Pimento cheese love.
I want to write that song. We stopped at this place. Was it called Saw's?
Saw's Soul Kitchen.
This little like hole in the wall barbecue place, and we ordered the pimento cheese. I don't know why. Neither of us really knew what it was. And she like had a tear in her eye. It was so good. She's like,
oh
I
my
think I'm
gosh, are you
crying.
serious?
I wasn't even, I mean, it was just so good. Wow. It was so good. Well, and the secret,
Whatever you're
I think,
doing, stop what you're doing. Go to Birmingham, Alabama. Get the pimento cheese.
it's drizzled with like a spicy fig jam on top.
Oh, wow.
And then it was served with, is it called chicharrones? Like fresh ones. Oh, so good. Yeah. Wow. I don't know. I love it.
Make it
I have a Birmingham sweatshirt now. Like I'm all in.
It's a great place, actually.
Yeah.
But to change gears just a little bit, I'm curious to get on more on a personal note. How did you guys meet?
I interned for his record label.
We had a record label called Authentic Records, and we put out maybe a couple dozen different artists, including my own band's music. And yeah, she was an intern. It's the age-old story.
Yeah.
Was it love at first sight?
No.
No?
No, I dated a bunch of other musicians, and I was working for a video game company at the same time, but we just became really good friends. I started traveling with the Nadas, and that's another example of a great family where it was me and a bunch of dudes. And I worked over 600 shows in 5 years.
Whoa.
For the Nadas, and then for some of Jason's shows, and then some friend bands. And so traveling on the road, you just spend a lot of time with each other, and we would do things called like Mike's Day of Fun. And Mike's Day of Fun would be where Mike, his co-lead singer, would get to choose what everybody does for the day, because we wouldn't have a show or something, but it's like a day off on the road. And then the next time it would be Emma's Day of Fun, and then I would get to choose what we do. And we actually started doing that when we were off the road at home, and we would just all go out together as a band family. And so we just became really good friends. And then over time, I eventually told my mom that I think I was falling for Jason.
Aww.
And she was like, I know. And I was so nervous to tell her. I was so nervous. I was like, okay, he's sitting down. I have to tell you something. And when I told her, she said, yeah, I know. And I was like, okay, well, it could have told me, because it's kind of blindsided me here. But I don't know. So we were really good friends first, and just kind of had each other's backs and looked to each other for advice. And then over time that turned into people who get married and buy cool vans together.
I know, right? Have a beautiful family, cool dogs.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
And actually, I was a fan of his band for forever. My brothers introduced me to the Nadas, and basically I decided I wanted my brothers to like me more when I was younger. And so I asked my dad to buy me Dave Matthews Band Live at Red Rocks and then a Nadas album. And he was like, well, honey, you can just borrow your brother's CDs. And I was like, no, I need my own, so that they think I'm real cool. And so from there, it's just kind of been a funny joke, because when I see him on stage, I'm still like, oh my God, that's Jason from the Nadas. Kind of like how I'm still like, oh my God, that's Joe and Kate Russo. Like I don't lose that appreciation of how I look up to these people and how I celebrate them. And I once was standing at a show in Chicago with my eldest brother, Soren, who kind of was the person who first said the Nadas are cool in my family. And then we all took notice. And Jason's playing one of his kind of like fan favorite songs called River. And I looked at my brother Soren and I said, if it still makes me think, oh my God, that's Jason from the Nadas and he's my husband, I was like, it's got to do weird stuff for you. And he's like, yeah, there's plenty of times where I find myself thinking, my little sister married Jason from the Nadas, because the Nadas are like, there's a couple of major, and I'm sorry if this is.
Should I be here?
Yeah,
for this
you should probably
podcast,
leave. No, there's a couple of like major artists that are really celebrated in the state of Iowa, and there's a ton that absolutely deserve mention across different genres. But the two that kind of get the most constant mention on a more Midwest to nationwide and even sometimes international way would be Slipknot and the Nadas.
Oh, wow.
And so they're kind of they're corn-fed folk darlings of the Midwest. And so for my family, we all saw them playing at the Iowa State Fair, and it's been fun. My mom, the first time she heard them play live, was like, how do I know all of the words to all of these songs? Well, it's because your kids have been playing their music this whole time. So.
Oh, that's a good story.
Yeah.
Oh.
And now my mom has all of their records in her car. That's like what she listens to 24/7, because she's like so proud of her son-in-law.
Oh.
So I was just thinking, so we kind of started by traveling together, and I feel like for me, like those who can travel well together are kind of like, that's like a sign that you're meant to be. And so that's kind of how it started. Traveling with a band is very similar to the Storyteller thing. You have that little band family, like she said, and then all the other bands you play with are kind of like STO meetups, STO meetups, and then we'd have these like South by Southwest in Austin, or Americana in Nashville, or CMJ in New York. We would have these kind of things that brings everybody together at once. So there's all these versions that are like that.
Yeah.
And
to celebrate that shared life experience. And
yeah,
for sure.
This is totally random, but and it doesn't have to be since you've owned the Storyteller, but since you've been a musician, as a team, what's like the hardest thing that you guys have had to deal with other than COVID?
I don't know.
Well, I think that if I can tell you what to say, I would say that it's probably, as far as vehicles go, it would probably be the maintenance and continuation of all things Meatloaf.
Yeah, we had a lot of vehicles over the years, and I quite often thought like that the vehicle issues or the issues surrounding a vehicle, or even acquiring or finding or sourcing and deciding, it, like if there was ever anything that was going to end our band, it would be vehicle issues.
Really?
Which
Wow.
is, I thought that many times over the years, that like this is going to be the thing that does us in, and it's just the vehicle. But you know, traveling with a group of people and equipment and logistics and schedules and time and hotels and roads and maintenance and breakdowns, like all of those parts, the playing the music's the easy part. The like getting along on the road is the easy part. Not for every band, but for our band, it always has been. It's always just been those unforeseen circumstances that are challenges, you know. So we had a lot of breakdowns, a lot of big catastrophic, you know, $7,000 towing bill.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Or like just figuring it out quickly and getting to, but we never missed a show.
Really? Wow. Good for you.
Yeah. But
There were times where we bought a new vehicle that day to get to the show. There were
Holy
times
cow.
where we like rented a limo to drive 300 miles to pick us up, to take us, like we've done all kinds of, or we've rented planes. We've done all kinds of things to make it happen. But
we've called the people hosting the event, and they've sent out a
convoy
of SUVs that can carry people and gear the rest of the 7 hours to their show.
Oh my goodness.
Well,
But
the one that I'm thinking of specifically would be Meatloaf and the 2 Detroit diesel.
So yeah, we had a
engines.
bus, like a Eagle tour bus, and
Previously
it had
owned?
3 million miles on it,
3 million?
and it was previously owned by Meatloaf. So
Oh,
it was
okay,
like
okay.
this, you know, crazy old school tour bus, and it was solid. It was an awesome vehicle. Like it was made to do what we did, you know, but it was also tired, and so you had to be on top of things all the time, and none of us were mechanically inclined. Except for one drummer we had for a while. He was like a diesel mechanic, so that worked out real well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Second job.
Yeah. But yeah, so we just figured it out. So that was like the biggest challenge. I would say, you know, there's always the stereotypical things you hear about in the music business of people taking advantage of people and just the pitfalls and stuff. But those are just always there. So we've been doing it a long time, and so all those things that are like super big highs and super big lows for most bands, because we've done it so long, it just sort of evens out, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to briefly tell 2 stories about Meatloaf.
Sure. Yeah.
One is that one time Jason was sleeping. So this is pre me being a part of the band or anything. He was sleeping in his bunk, and he noticed that it was like getting kind of smoky. And so he got up and he walked to the front of the bus, and John Locker, our bass player at the time, was like, his knuckles were bright, ghostly white, and he's just holding on to the steering wheel. And Jason's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And John's like, "No brakes, no brakes." And they were going over Rabbit Ears Pass in Colorado, over by Steamboat,
Gosh.
and the brakes went out, and then they lit on fire. And so
when I walked up to him, he was, you know, just trying to manhandle it, and we were going past a runaway truck ramp, like the last one, and it said last option or whatever. And I was like, "Are you going to take that?" He's like, "I don't know." And it was like we had to make that.
Yeah.
He had to make that decision right then, and he ended up saying he thought he could ride it out. We made it all the way to the bottom, and we called the fire. We actually stopped right in front of the fire department, and we called the fire department, and they came and like put the fires out on the
Oh my
brakes.
gosh.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And then we had to drive right back over it the next day.
yeah, super crazy, right? And then the other one that I think is really fun and brief is that another time one of their substitute drummers was driving the van or the bus and went under a bridge that was not in fact
An L track in Chicago.
An L track in Chicago that was not in fact enough clearance for the
Oh,
bus.
no.
And they had 3 roof airs on the bus. And every time one of the guys in the band describes this, they always go, "It went pop, pop, pop."
And then you just looked up and
and then
saw
there was
stars.
So they all heard the exact pop, 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 and they're gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we had one, I'll tell the short version of the story. We had one where we blew the whole engine coming down from Colorado in far eastern Colorado on New Year's Day in a blizzard. So there was no chance anyone was going to come help us, you know? So we just broke down on the side of the road. But we had like, the generator still worked. We had plenty of food. We had drinks. We had movies. We had everything we needed to just sit there. So we did. I'm the one not holding the microphone, right? So we did. And the only thing, like some of the guys were smokers and they ran out of cigarettes. So they got on the CB and they're like, Breaker 19, you want to have some cigarettes? So truckers would pull over and like give them cigarettes and give us other things and check on other things. And eventually the state patrol came by and they're like, you guys got to move this. And we're like, well, we'd like to. We've been here for like 12 hours, but you know, we can't move it and no one will come. And they're like, well, if you don't move it, we're going to tow it. And we're like, okay, well, let us know where it ends up.
Because they couldn't get anyone else to tow it. So like, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
So we ended up getting it towed. But so there's a good video. We wrote a song called Hammer Down about that experience. And there's a good YouTube video on the Nada's channel for that song that I filmed. Well, she filmed while we were driving the bus. And so it's got some good bus footage. And I've got a pretty nice mustache in that one.
And there's some video of the brakes on fire too. So,
Oh, really? Oh, I got to watch that.
Oh, yeah.
These are early YouTube videos. So they're really short because YouTube just used to allow like 3 minutes or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And they're low res and stuff because they were just small digital cameras, but they're still fun.
Part of our scrapbook.
So, what are some of the best experiences that you guys had being on the road with the band?
3 years ago, we got to go to Beijing and play the U.S. Embassy for like a 4th of July Independence Day party. That was really fun.
Wow.
Yes.
4 years ago, we played Havana, Cuba, like in a little art gallery with this Cuban band. It was amazing. I am so bad at naming those things because I've literally played like Bellingham, Washington, and Freeport, Maine, and Key West, Florida, and San Diego, and everywhere in between. And I've had an amazing life of experiences, you know. So it's hard for me to do those things, but
I'll think of a couple more.
okay, good.
So I would say that like this one was pre my time for the Nadas, but in 2001.
2001, yeah.
Yep. In 2001, they were named the best band you've never heard of by Playboy magazine.
Oh.
And
Is that a good thing?
well,
No, I'm just joking.
I would say that yes, it is a good thing. And in fact, there are a lot of photos of them in this issue, and they are all wearing clothes. So
Were you
that's
centerfold?
Right behind the centerfold.
great. Isn't that amazing? And
That is pretty cool, actually.
I can pick up the magazine, like hold it with one hand and like drop it open on my page, but only because it's right behind the centerfold.
Yeah. And so that was pretty exceptional. Playboy then threw them like a celebratory party at one of our favorite venues in Des Moines. And it was like a pajama party, and Playboy rented them a limo, and some, you know, big names attended and everything. So that's pretty cool. Just a really good accolade.
It was a good milestone for sure. And it's actually this September will be the 20th anniversary of that.
Yeah.
And I don't think so. That was like before magazines were on the internet.
Yeah.
So
we
I
have
don't think that stuff
boxes
has
of
ever
these.
been. I don't think that's ever really been like it's archived out there or anything.
Sure.
So I think we're gonna probably do something with it because it's a really cool article.
Yeah.
It is. And it's, I think,
I
like
only
4
look at it
pages
for the
long.
articles.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. When I was working for his record label as an intern, and my dad came to visit me at my office, and he had to walk past, well, he didn't walk past, stacks of Playboy magazines and bottles of Templeton Rye whiskey, because that was...
We had a really good like fairy tale sort of whiskey sponsorship for a while.
Yeah. And so my dad's like, well, this is an interesting place of work. I'm like, well, if you go to right after the centerfold and close your eyes until you get there, you can read the article. But so that was really, really cool. And then The other thing, I mean, there's been numerous things, but the other thing that comes to mind is, what would you say, like 3-4 years ago, the Nadas were inducted into the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's just like the Ohio Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
but
Still,
Iowa.
that's cool.
but in Iowa. And no, it is really, really cool, because one of the things that you have to have accomplished in order to be in the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is that you have to have been a band for 25 years.
Oh, wow.
And so they had been a band for 25 years. They got enough nominations, and it was an incredible celebration. But one of the coolest parts is that Mike and Jason of the Nadas, Jason here, decided that they wanted to include all of their players that had ever been a part of their story to the best of their ability. It's a lot of people. So, managing that list for 25 years is a little tricky, but so they actually inducted, I think, 32, 35 people alongside the Nadas. And
Nice.
so when we were announced, this incredible group of like 30 some people were taken out onto the stage and acknowledged, and then they played a show that night as a part of the celebration. And at one point we had like 3 different drummers all on stage playing at the same time,
sweet.
and just this big, and like some singers, and just it was a whole big celebration of all the amazing things they have accomplished. And as somebody who's a part of that now, but also who remains just a really big fan, it was pretty special.
Yeah, that sounds really special.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's quite the accomplishment. Wow. You guys are going to start playing again, aren't you, soon? Or
Yeah, we have. In fact, we played last night. Mike and I did here in Phoenix, and then I play a solo show tonight. So tonight's another backyard show. So I have loved doing this I'll Play Anywhere Man tour, this van tour, this sort of impromptu, really small group thing. So I'm going to keep doing that because I love it. But yes, the band also has a bunch of shows, and so I like that too. So we have, the State Fair, and we have, we're playing Camp Dodge, which is our National Guard base, but it's like open to the public, and we have a bunch of big shows this summer, which will be fun.
that's awesome.
Including the return of the Nadas summer camp in Evergreen, Colorado.
Yeah, which could be a good
Ooh.
van sort of
That
like
could be
meetup.
a really cool van
So it's
meetup.
July 9, 10, and 11 in Evergreen, which is beautiful, just outside Denver.
Save me a spot.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it's 3 nights at this little divey sort of Old West saloon type bar. But we've played there 100 times, and it's like a really magical place, and it sounds good, and great people there. So that'd be a fun one.
And the Flare Space guys are based out of Evergreen.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, we
Oh,
found that out recently. So
Small world.
yeah, hopefully we'll be able to get them to come down and party with us at
Oh,
the
yeah.
at the Little Bear.
Heck yeah, that'll be a crazy party.
Yeah. For
Yeah,
sure.
I'm definitely going to be there.
We
Please
should
save me
see
a
if we
spot.
can
I
figure
think-
out a place to like.
Yeah,
park
let's do
vans.
this. Like this is gonna be a thing. Unless there's already an event, when I get on the Facebook group planned for that weekend, I'll start putting things together, because that would be a really, really fun weekend. And it allows so much time during the day to be able to go and do adventures and go hiking if you wish, or just enjoy the town of Evergreen. And then a really good way to cap off the night every night at
Oh, my
at
goodness.
that Little Bear.
A lot of our fans stay at this little like group of cabins called Bear Creek Cabins, and it's on this little section of, I guess it'd be Bear Creek, but I actually think it's like the St. Vrain maybe.
I don't
Anyway,
know.
on this little stretch of river, and we sit there and catch fish. I know you posted
Yeah.
about fly fishing, so we can fish during the day, and we hang hammocks up in the trees, and so we actually stayed last year. So we didn't have the official summer camp last year, but we went and played at that group of cabins for the same group of people who normally go, and just played right there along the river. And we camped in the van. So
Yeah, everyone was like, we have an extra cabin, you can stay in there. We're like, no, do you want to see our van? We're good. We have
I
this
know.
really cool van. You should check it out.
So there might be a way to be able to park some vans there if we got some people.
That'd be
going or
really
something.
cool.
Yeah.
Holy cow. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
That's the one thing about
love
van
that.
life. You don't know where you're going to be or what's right around the corner. And
Yeah.
it's like, bam, that just opened
yeah, you
up.
can just kind of do it on the fly.
Yeah.
We're trying to find a way to get a van meetup in like Iowa. And I know people don't think of Iowa as like the most, the sought after destination, but we think it'd be fun to host some people there. So we're trying to plan something.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. Well, at some point
We're still in
we'll
the
get
thinking
done.
it up stage.
Well, the thing is that it would probably be more like a fall time of year, as opposed to like, hey, come get really sweaty in Iowa with us for a few. Let's put our air conditionings to the test, you
Have you seen our
guys.
mosquitoes?
Yeah.
Make sure Dan's out there
Everybody
so we can help
got your,
everyone.
yeah, everyone have their bug screens. Come on out. So I think that probably something like in the fall, we might try to put something together for a couple day adventure in kind of the central Iowa area. Our friends own Pamela Park Coffee Company, and they're right outside of the Pamela State Park in Iowa, just outside of, it's in Madison County, which is where all these covered bridges are. Covered bridges of Madison County. And so they have this beautiful place and plenty of camping and
good coffee. You're drinking Pamela Park
amazing
coffee.
Ooh, I was going to say that is good coffee.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And we have been, it's funny, on our first trip, Matt from Pamela Park reached out and was like, hey, can I be your coffee sponsor? We have no sponsors, right? So we're like, does that mean you give us coffee? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to send you some coffee. So he actually packed up a box of coffee and pour over stuff and mailed it to my brother's house in Seattle so that we could pick it up. So they are our official coffee sponsor, full disclosure, but we also actually really thoroughly enjoy their coffee. And they actually told us recently to stop buying it at our grocery store because they were like, what are you doing? And we're like, I don't know, supporting your brand.
Supporting your sponsorship to us.
Yeah, exactly. It's a circle of life. I don't know. So anyhow, that could be really cool. They have some horses, do trail
wow,
rides,
yeah.
stuff like that.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah.
Oh,
We'll
I'm
see.
definitely in too.
All right.
You're never getting rid of me now.
Well, also, that's something to note is that we do have our driveway on, what's the app? Van Life app?
Well, the
But
Van
we're
Life app,
calling
which is
it
now something else. Right?
Seeker, yeah.
So we have our driveway registered with Seeker.
Oh, wow.
It's not like in a beautiful wilderness area with
No,
a scenic view or anything.
certainly
It's just
not.
a little neighborhood in Des Moines, but it does have 30 amp power and water.
Oh,
and
nice.
Walkable to a grocery store, 24-hour grocery store. And anyhow, point is that everyone is welcome if you're coming through the central Iowa area. We're right at the connection of 80 and 35. And so it's a pretty easy stop off if somebody needs a place to stay. And then we actually, in addition to getting a van, bought the house in our backyard. And so we're running like an Airbnb in our
nice.
backyard property. But that means that when it's not booked on Airbnb, it's available to our van
For
life
laundry or
friends for
bathroom.
laundry
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So
Oh,
we're
that's
kinda-
very generous of you.
well, people have been so generous to us. We want to
Exactly.
be able to return that. We've parked in a lot of driveways and we've used a lot of guest bathrooms. So we want to be able to pay that forward if we can. And we're the only, at last I checked, we're the only storyteller in the state of Iowa.
Really?
Yeah. So we, of course, freak out when we see another one.
Yeah, yeah.
We're like, no way.
Chase him down the highway.
We absolutely
done
do
that,
that. That's how we met a couple new friends.
That's awesome.
Hi.
That's how I met Kevin Shumway, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember. He was in Sedona, but
Okay.
he was a younger guy. He's probably, I don't know about the youngest person that owns a storyteller, but he's definitely.
Where's he from?
California.
Okay.
Yeah, his family is in California, but yeah, that's how I met him because I was actually coming off the on ramp, and then I see him fly by, and it was a beast, and I was like,
No way.
who is this person?
Yeah.
And I was like, get out, and so.
So he's a full timer. He was with
Yeah.
you guys in your little what they call the kids area or something, right?
The kids area, the Van Clan, or I don't know. Yeah, it was. But yes, but I told him about Van Fest, and so we met up he actually came back the next day because I hit him up on Instagram. He came back because I was camping with Lorenzo and Catherine at Emma Wood State Beach, and so he came and visited, and so that's when we actually first met. And then I told him about Van Fest, and he's like, oh, that's cool. So we met out there along with Caden and some other people.
Sure.
And then, so really, we had been hanging out for almost 2 weeks before we came to Sedona, I want to say. So that's
awesome.
why.
That's why you had your own little kids area.
It's like you can't break the band apart.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
anyways.
I did meet him in Sedona, and he talked about maybe booking us for a show in Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah. He has property. Yeah. I did a podcast with him when we went to Flagstaff, and apparently he has beachfront property.
Yeah.
And he's in the midst of building a house, and I try to convince him to build 30, like have a row of 30, amps with water and whatnot, but I don't know if that'll happen. But
it's a good idea.
Yeah. And he's like, so if anyone's down in the area, he's like, yeah, definitely hit me up. You have a place to stay for a while.
That's cool.
I was like, beachside access? I'm there.
Let's see where the wind takes me.
Yeah. It's like, and we can go through the border now. It's like, okay, I'm there. Anyways, but yeah, that'd be really cool. That'd be a Mexico meetup.
That would be an excellent meetup also.
Whoa.
I think I could play Mexico on the I'll Play Anywhere Man tour.
Absolutely.
I
think you can literally play anywhere.
That's awesome. So to go full circle, this song that you've made with Storyteller, it's being released on the 27th of May.
Yep.
Which is, well,
Next
today
Thursday.
is, yeah. So how are they going to release it? Where can people find it?
So it'll be on Spotify and Apple Music and all those normal streaming services. And it will be on the Storyteller page and their YouTube page. I'm not sure exactly, but I guess my answer to that question is I'm sure they're going to do a good job of helping people find it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But in the meantime, if you want to add it to your playlist or anything like that, all of the normal streaming services will have it starting on May 27th.
And we just launched a new website actually that I should probably
yeah.
mention it'll be available there in digital form, but also in like physical form when the full album's done. So, and vinyl. So,
Oh, wow.
So that's jasonwalsmithstoryteller.com.
Oh, nice.
So right now it's available for pre-sale just to kind of help get the project going. Think of it as kind of a Kickstarter type thing, but I'm not doing Kickstarter, so it's just you can pre-buy it.
And you can think of it as kind of like a Patreon thing, except we're not doing Patreon. It's through the website. So like there are some folks who are subscribing on a monthly basis to what we are creating, and part of what we are creating is that we at a certain level will like send you postcards from the road and just kind of let people be as involved as they wish to in helping us keep doing what we're doing and releasing the record on the 31st of August, which is also his birthday. So yeah, I think we have, Camper Van obviously will be done May 27th and out into the world and ready for consumption. But then we have like 5 other songs that are ready to go, 2 that are partially done. And then we just have to finish out the other 3 and order CDs if people want them, and order
School
vinyl.
CDs.
And
We actually have a lot to do.
we do have a lot to do, but I feel like we always have a lot to do, so that's fine.
Yep.
That's a good thing, though. That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
And then you guys had a documentary made about you guys, right?
A mini doc. Yeah.
Yeah. What's that all about?
So that is a part of Storyteller's new initiatives that, because we don't have all the words to use, I'll just like let them own that messaging and try not to dive into it too much.
Okay.
But they wanted to, they came to us not only with this idea to go ahead and go record the song Camper Van with Jeffrey and Jason Ruha and Matt from Quality Control. You ever have friends who you really care about, but because you met them as this person who owns this thing or whatever, like at one point I knew Matt's last name is my point. Like I know his
Matt,
last name,
Quality
but
Control.
for me, he's mostly Matt, Quality Control.
Yeah.
So Matt, Quality Control, also plays bass really well. And anyhow, in addition to that, Ruha pitched to us this idea of doing a mini doc that basically just tells our story and covers a lot of the stuff that we've talked about today, and includes some videos of our van and our adventure to Muscle Shoals and just the whole what have Emma and Jason done over the last 10 months, which at first we were like, yeah, let's do that. But, I guess that might be fun and interesting. Well, now that we've seen the finished product, we're like, that's really cool.
Wow.
When's
that going to be
cool.
released?
Same
On the
day.
27th?
Same day.
day.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. And is that going to be on your new website so people can see, or is that
we'll link
strictly?
to it.
Okay.
It'll be it'll live in the Storyteller Overland organization's world, and so when that goes live on their YouTube channels and whatever other ways they want to use it, we will point everyone to it to go check it
Awesome.
out.
I
And
can't wait.
Yeah, us too.
That's really cool.
I got to show it to my parents, and I just sat there looking at my parents like, did you see me? I was right there.
You're the star. Now everyone's gonna be like, oh, Emma.
That's where Aretha Franklin stood.
I know.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah,
It's like,
but it's really neat how like our story is cool. It's turned out really amazing. It's been incredible. We feel very lucky. Like there's all these really good feelings about it, but the fact that it includes the CEO of the van company that you bought a van from, that's wild. Like that's like television made for movie sort of storytelling right there.
yeah.
So we're excited to see where these new things take us, but also where it takes Storyteller. And I hope that they continue to create content like they did with us, because our story is fun and interesting, but a lot of really cool stories are out there. And meeting everybody at these mode meetups and learning what has brought them to this same point in life where they own this same van is really fascinating.
Yeah.
Everybody has a story.
They do. Yeah, that's why I love talking to people that own it.
Yeah.
And that's why I title it Meet So-and-so, because that's exactly what it is. But so we talked about this just a little bit, but I like to close out every podcast with, you probably know, the same question, and that is, what does it mean for you to be part of the Stonation community?
You do end up that way, and I even thought about that, but that's basically what we've been talking about the whole time.
I know, right?
It means everything. No, it's a whole bunch of stuff to be grateful for. And we are people. Like, how do you say it? If I'm a people person, we are people.
We are people.
And so to be able to join a community where people like you will allow me to go over and pet their dog and like, you know, go help Kimchi steal some toys from other dogs and whatever, but also share your story with us without us feeling like we're asking too much. It's that word unconditional comes back into play, where we just have found ourselves in a really good space. And that's all because of the people who have also bought Storyteller Overland vans, or hope to someday purchase a Storyteller Overland van.
Yeah, or people that have a deposit that are patiently waiting.
Yeah, we actually, at the Moab meetup, we brought with us another person who, after they saw our van and did a tour of our van, they then put a deposit down. And so she parked on the other side of our van, because, you know, we had that big circle. We circled the wagons. And she was like, I don't want to put my... What was
Highlander,
it? My Highlander in the circle. So she like parked, but she then a week later picked up her Storyteller.
Oh, that's so awesome.
She was like, I'm almost there.
You know, it's so funny. Did you remember Lisa? I forget her last name,
Yeah.
but her
Quality
daughter
control?
came down. No, quality control.
Is she the one from Ohio? Maybe?
From
Is it
I want to say
Hainline?
yes.
Yeah.
And then her daughter came and met because they geographically are just really separated, but she wouldn't let her daughter park in the circle because she didn't have a Storyteller. I thought that was so funny.
Yep.
Sorry, that kind of
We got a good vibe going on here. We're not anti Highlanders and other cars, but we got a good thing going on.
It's a mode meetup, so.
Yep.
I had such a great time talking to you too. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And I really, really want everyone out there to go check out your new song, the documentary, the whole 9 yards. And
Thank you so
yeah,
much.
it's going to be awesome. I can't
Thanks
wait.
for including us in your podcast, not only
Yeah.
in the theme song, but as one of the episodes. So we're enjoying, watching and listening to your podcast, and so now it's fun. To be
Oh,
on it
wait.
as well.
Can I look at the camera?
Sure.
Also?
Yeah.
Because I think everyone should sign up as a supporter of the Stonation podcast.
Oh.
We signed up. We were like, do we have to choose classic because we have a classic, or can we go beast mode?
Oh, yeah.
So we went
Yeah.
beast mode and hoped that would just be okay with you.
No, absolutely. Well, when I was, first of all, long story short, some insider information.
Yeah.
But when I first started Stonation, I was thinking, I was like, because there's different tiers, so I just didn't want to call it tier 1, 2, 3.
Of course.
And I was just like, well, let me just do classic stealth
It's
beast.
perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, so whatever, any support, which, by the way, I thank you very much. In fact, when I saw you guys, I was like, what? what are they doing?
We love it.
But anyways, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much. But yeah, so a lot of people don't know that when you become a stealth or a beast mode subscriber, you actually get to listen to the episodes early. In fact, I release them before the sneak peek on Instagram comes out. So that's one of the perks. It's the only perk I can think of. So if you have better ideas, let me know. But
That's a pretty good perk. You could try sending postcards from the road.
Yeah.
that'd be cool. I'm
We
always on
haven't
the road.
successfully done that yet, but we have a few subscribers that are due a postcard.
Yep.
We should probably pick up a Scottsdale postcard and
I would love that.
get it in the mail.
Yeah.
And if you're watching this, support Jason and Emma and the Nadas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
The big thing is we have this YouTube channel that I'm really hoping we get to 1,000 subscribers, because then we can do more stuff with it. You know, right now we have like 300. So it's called The Raconteurs, and that's where we're posting the long form version. We post a lot of like short little things on Instagram and stuff, but I don't know. We just have fun telling the stories. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely subscribe. So anyways, thank you again. I appreciate it so
Thank you.
much. And I just feel, and I think I can say for everyone, just really blessed to be part of this community.
Absolutely.
Stonation is a production of Park Media. The executive producer is Younghwa Kim. The audio engineer is
Stephen Grasso.
The marketing director is
Guillaume Golsong.
The original music and artist is done by
Jason Walsmith.
The sound designer is
Lorenzo Interiano.
and the webmaster is
Peng.
Without any of these people, this podcast couldn't happen, so a big, huge thank you. And a big, huge thank you to you, the listener. If you like this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a 5-star review. This is Younghwa with Stonation, and I can't wait to share the road with you.